Good afternoon, everyone. Now, this is going to be the last episode of our chat, Arash chat, where we talk about revolutionizing service organizations.
Yes, I'm sure that there'll be lots more comments and chats, so we'll have some more in the future, I'm sure. But let's wrap up what we've covered so far and talk through some more stuff regarding how we do a model office, what's the value of technology, and some stuff like that.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely in future do more videos, more collaboration together, but this series will be wrapping it up today. And to wrap it up, just going to briefly cover what we talked about. We talked about purposeful organizations, we talked about the check process and the Vanguard systems thinking method. How would you build that capability of basically bringing together a team, a cross-functional team, which has the capability, ideally the individual person has the capability to deliver customer client requests from the beginning to the end within a really short amount of time. Say the customer calls up, makes a request, and that request is resolved then and there in the manner that the client wants it to be resolved, basically delivering what matters to the client. Now, just to recap, the check process was when we get a small team of cross-functional people, for example, six people, and they get together, they study the system for a period of time, maybe 6 weeks or so, and then by studying the system, they gain understanding, and then they can suggest some changes, think about some improvement or some experiments that they can do to revolutionize service offering, basically, right? The way that we provide service. And then we have check, plan, and then do, which is pretty much now what will be changed. How will we do things differently? So this small team is typically 6 people, or like very small team, is only a small part of the organization. The question is then, how do you roll this out to the rest of the organization, right? How do you make it, a company, thousands of people, use a new way of working, completely transform the ways of working? And the answer is you don't. You don't roll them out, right?
No, you do not roll it out. You do not push it onto people. I think we have seen so many management frameworks in the past and project management philosophies being pushed out and consequently falling flat on their feet as a result. And so you really have to bring people along the journey and make them understand why it's important and that they succeed with it so that they continue to want to promote it as well.
Absolutely. So instead of rolling out the method or the framework, we roll people in to the model office. So our initial group of people who started experimenting, we call them model office. And let's say, for example, it's a call center. We will load balance all the calls coming in. A tiny portion of them are going to go to the model office. The rest are going to still go to the old way of working, the old call center. Now, over time, we have groups of people joining this model office, and the model office is going to keep growing. So we have groups of people going through the check process again, same thing as the initial group of people, and then they join the model office. Model office keeps growing until it consumes the entire organization. And this way, you're also kinking out and ironing out all the issues of scaling, because what works for 6 people may not work for 600 people, right? And you have to understand those challenges and solve them in an iterative and incremental way.
Yep.
And you keep doing it and keep doing it.
Yeah, iterative's the magic word there, and it's like you cannot do this in a big bang by any means, and you really need to give each new capability that you pick up through growing the model office that respect of the process of check, plan, and do.
Absolutely. So everyone goes through it. And ultimately, the external world is also not remaining still. Everything is changing, so we need to evolve on regular basis. So we have this concept of job 2, where we dedicate a percentage of our time, say maybe 30% or something, for continuous improvement and continually checking and going back and understanding and updating and evolving our solutions and ways of working.
Yeah, that's right. And it's probably the main difference from our last video where we talked about silos and the original industrial revolution way of working, was that it was just you focused on the single job of your specialisation, whereas job 2 is really about taking that step back and understanding the system as a whole. And if you are successful with job 2, you start changing even not only just the way a particular work happens, but why that work even happens in the first place. So if you can imagine you go to a restaurant and order a coffee, well, imagine if you just went to the restaurant and the coffee that you wanted was already there, and you start, like, you can just optimize for good outcomes, and the sky's the limit, really. So you can, but you first have to make that space, and you make that space to have those experiments, to understand the system and circulate those, I guess, hypotheses that, you know, and how you'll go about that approach, so that you can, as a collective, talk about the system. You know, and like we're not the first people doing this. This has happened. You know, I think Toyota's a great example of this, and their way of working on the factory floor, and how they, you know, discuss improvements and move through change. And really, it's about just applying. Yeah, so it's going back to the Athenians here about that rhetoric, and let's discuss and move the system forward.
Absolutely, well said, Con. Great. So I think that summarizes generally the Vanguard systems thinking method and how it's done. Of course, there's lots and lots of details and nuances which, you know, can't be covered really in a few short videos. But now I want to talk about specifically something which is really important for both of us as software engineers, right? What role did technology play in this entire transformation?
So, look, I'll talk back to the first role that I had in this team, and that was around, we built a system, we call it a CRM, but really it started off as a data gathering exercise to capture this one element, and what that was, did we deliver what matters to the customer? So it doesn't matter how you do this, whether you build an IT system or whether you just start with a piece of paper or a spreadsheet, but what you're trying to do is basically understand your organisation's capability and whether they delivered or not, and the waste work and how they can make improvements. And so the role of technology, I guess, is from an information standpoint, helping the organisation collect all that information, and then also helping with the hypothesis building and the data gathering to plan what we can work on next and what should be the next things that we work on. And then after that, it's around the implementation. So then through our hypothesis and data gathering, we identify opportunities, given that most orgs have a huge IT footprint and a dependency there on how to get work done efficiently. It's then building in efficiencies and perhaps removing existing hindrances, being able to experiment really quickly, deliver IT changes super fast in cohort with the business, so that we can get those experiments done really quickly.
Absolutely, and some examples that I've actually seen are, in a traditional call center, you typically would expect people to jump in between, say, 20 different applications. I've seen so many windows open, they have to go into one, click on something, copy something out, go there, paste it, and then click somewhere else and do something else, and then communicate with different silos within the organization using different tools, different ticketing system. Maybe one is using Jira, the other one is using ServiceNow. It's complex, right? Another role that I've seen these technology teams play is they have been creating a single interface, absorbing all that complexity. So the person at the call center just has one window, one screen, and they just type things there. It's easy to use and it's intuitive, but on the background is connected to all those various systems.
Yeah, and I think we're still doing this to this day, but there's an element of you are removing impediments through simple things like through automation and robotics to just hide the complexity of other interfaces. You can talk a lot more about this, but effectively you find that systems were built for the period of the time that they were created in, but the world changes and they don't get really adapted because that's too costly. And what we try to do is put an interface on things that are complex and try to keep flow going. And a lot of the time we found that if you can validate your hypotheses and make changes to the system and keep that flow going, you've got that flexibility to pivot. You're not bound, but generally most people can relate to this. They request a change from IT and they won't hear about it for another 6 months at best. That it goes in a queue somewhere in a backlog. So we want to basically build flow, and it doesn't matter if we don't have to own the data, we just have to be the facilitators. And what I think the one thing I do need to highlight is that by building a system that tracks these metrics around did we deliver what matters, it also becomes a natural place to also kick off a lot of these automations and removals of existing functionality and existing systems getting in. So it naturally then starts becoming this one-stop shop and growing into a larger thing.
Absolutely, and because that team was embedded in the operations team, it was just so fast to experiment, and they would immediately go and fix things. It was a lightweight application. You didn't have, like Con was saying, massive things where you have to wait for the IT team to do big projects and spend millions of dollars and things like that, which is very powerful. But interestingly, when this transformation started at first, they were told, usually Vanguard suggests that we don't touch technology. We start by giving the team 2 rules only, right? Don't break the law, don't change IT. Everything else is on the table. Don't worry whoever you're pissing off, don't worry which processes you're not following. You will be experimenting and you will be testing those out. But no changes to technology initially, because we don't want band-aid technology automation solutions. We want fixing the underlying process first, and then we can automate stuff and make stuff faster. Well, I hope you enjoyed this series. It was such a pleasure talking to you with Khan, and I'm sure we're going to do more videos like this in future.
Yeah, thank you, Arash. You've been such a great host, and thank you for organising these. And look forward to chatting to you. We're going to chat anyway, but maybe we'll record some in future too if you're interested. So thanks a lot for watching.
All right, thank you. Bye.